What's up everyone, General Discharge here. Today's video is going to be discussing the different ranks of the United States military. As of 2021, the time we made this video, there are now 6 branches to the military, with the newest addition being the Space Force. Did you know they're referred to as Guardians? We're going to go over all of the enlisted ranks, warrant officer ranks, and commissioned officer ranks of all of the branches. If you want to know more about the different ranks of the United States military, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Before we jump into it, make sure to take a moment and show us some love and support by liking our video and subscribing to our channel. Your support is our lifeblood. Do not hesitate to ask us questions in the comments section below. We check everything. Before we dive in, we'll go over what the 6 branches are. There's the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, Coast Guard, and the Space Force. In the Army, you're a soldier. In the Navy, you're a sailor. Marines are Marines, Air Force are Airmen, Coast Guard are Coast Guardsmen, or Coasties informally, and Space Force are Guardians. Fun fact, the Coast Guard falls under the Department of the Navy in times of war. Otherwise, it is under the Department of Homeland Security, like it is now. The pay grades for all the branches are E for enlisted, W for warrant officer, and O for commissioned officers. They go from E1 to E9, W1 to W5, and O1 to O10, respectively. Each pay grade gets the same base pay, so it doesn't matter which branch you're in. If you're an E5, you get E5 base pay. Your time in service, location, and specialty pay will affect your overall paycheck, but we won't get into that here. We're going to go over the enlisted ranks, then the warrant officer ranks, and finish up with the commissioned officer ranks. Let's get into it. The lowest rank in the military is an E1. In the Army, this is a private. In the Navy, this is a seaman recruit. For a Marine, this is a private. For the Air Force, an Airman Basic. Coast Guard is a seaman recruit. And for Space Force, Specialist 1. If you noticed, no service branch has an insignia for the rank of E1. You'll just have to wait till you reach E2 to get one of those. For E2s, in the Army, this is a private second class. In the Navy, this is a seaman apprentice. In the Marines, this is a private first class. In the Air Force, this is an airman. In the Coast Guard, this is a seaman apprentice, and in the Space Force, this is a Specialist 2. As you'll notice for the rest of this video, the Space Force currently uses the same insignias as the Air Force, but that may change in the future once they have more time to come up with their own designs. Moving on to E3. In the Army, this is a private first class. In the Navy, this is a seaman. In the Marines, this is a Lance Corporal. In the Air Force, this is an Airman First Class. In the Coast Guard, this is a Seaman. And in the Space Force, this is a Specialist 3. Now we're on to E4. This is where you become a non-commissioned officer, or NCO for short. In the Navy and Coast Guard, these are called petty officers. In the Army, this is either a specialist or a corporal. Specialists aren't NCOs, but corporals are. In the Navy, this is a petty officer 3rd class. In the Marines, this is a corporal. In the Air Force, this is a senior airman. In the Coast Guard, this is a petty officer 3rd class. And in the Space Force, this is a Specialist 4. Moving on to E5. In the Army, this is a sergeant. In the Navy, this is a petty officer 2nd class. In the Marines, this is a sergeant. In the Air Force, this is a staff sergeant. In the Coast Guard, this is a petty officer 2nd class. And in the Space Force, this is a sergeant. Now on to E6. In the Army, this is a staff sergeant. In the Navy, this is a petty officer 1st class. In the Marines, this is a staff sergeant. In the Air Force, this is a technical sergeant. In the Coast Guard, this is a petty officer 1st class. And in the Space Force, this is a technical sergeant. In the Marine Corps, E6 is a big jump because you're now considered a staff NCO. Moving on to E7. These are your senior non-commissioned officers. These are big jumps for the rest of the branches, especially the Navy, as becoming a chief is a very big deal. In the Army, this is a sergeant 1st class. In the Navy, this is a chief petty officer. In the Marines, this is a gunnery sergeant. In the Air Force, this is a master sergeant, and they also have first sergeants at this rank. In the Coast Guard, this is a Chief Petty Officer, and in the Space Force, this is a Master Sergeant or First Sergeant. At E8, this is where there's a split between technical and administrative positions. You'll have the opportunity to serve in a leadership position at various command levels, or stick to your MOS and continue to be a subject matter expert. The first sergeants are the leadership ranks. In the Army, this is a master sergeant or first sergeant. You can tell the difference with the diamonds. In the Navy, this is a senior chief petty officer. In the Marines, this is a master sergeant or first sergeant. In the Air Force, this is a senior master sergeant or first sergeant. In the Coast Guard, this is a senior chief petty officer. And in the Space Force, this is a senior master sergeant or a first sergeant. Now on to E9s, the highest enlisted rank. In the Army, this is a sergeant major or command sergeant major. In the Navy, this is a Master Chief Petty Officer or Command Master Chief Petty Officer. In the Marines, this is a Master Gunnery Sergeant or a Sergeant Major. In the Air Force, this is either a Chief Master Sergeant, First Sergeant, or a Command Chief Master Sergeant. In the Coast Guard, this is a Master Chief Petty Officer or Command Master Chief Petty Officer. And in the Space Force, this is either a Chief Master Sergeant, First Sergeant, or a Command Chief Master Sergeant. There's an even higher position for E9s, which makes them the highest enlisted person in the entire branch. In the Army, this is the Sergeant Major of the Army. In the Navy, this is the Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy. In the Marines, this is the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps. In the Air Force, this is the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. In the Coast Guard, this is the Master Chief Petty Officer of the Coast Guard. And in the Space Force, this is the Chief Master Sergeant of the Space Force. And that's a brief rundown of the enlisted personnel ranks of the United States military. Now we're going to move on to warrant officers. What's a warrant officer, you ask? Warrant officers are highly skilled, single-track specialty officers who are subject matter experts of their fields. They're kind of in a weird limbo state in the military, because they outrank all enlisted personnel, but fall subordinate to commissioned officers. Each branch uses them slightly differently, and to become one has different requirements respected to the branch. The Air Force and Space Force do not have warrant officers, so they will not be included in this section. Let's kick it off with W1s. In the Army and Marines, this is a Warrant Officer 1. In the Navy, this is a Chief Warrant Officer 1. Fun fact, the Navy actually just reinstated this rank in 2018. The Coast Guard does not have this rank. On to W2. In the Army, Marines, Navy, and Coast Guard, this is a Chief Warrant Officer 2. For W3, in all of these branches, it is a Chief Warrant Officer 3. For W4, they're all Chief Warrant Officer 4. For W5, everyone but the Coast Guard is a Chief Warrant Officer 5. While the Coast Guard has authorized a W5, they have not appointed one to date. Now we're moving on to the commissioned officers of the US military. With the exception of some limited duty officers, becoming an officer requires a bachelor's degree at a minimum. The first commissioned officer rank is an 01. In the Army, Marines, Air Force, and the Space Force, this is a second lieutenant. In the Navy and Coast Guard, this is an ensign. In fact, you'll notice that the Navy and Coast Guard are the outliers with every single officer rank title. Before we move on to O2s, we'll go over a commonly asked question. Does an O1 outrank an E9? Short answer, yes. On paper, and by all intents and purposes, a fresh new butter bar out of OCS outranks the highest ranking enlisted person in the entire military. However, in reality, the officer will respect, learn, and be humbled by his or her senior enlisted colleagues. Also, if a second lieutenant gave an order to a sergeant major, that sergeant major might execute that order, but they answer to someone much higher than that second lieutenant, so stuff like that would never happen. Okay, on to O2s. In these four branches, this is a first lieutenant. In these two, this is a lieutenant junior grade. For O3s, in these four branches, this is a captain. In these two, this is a lieutenant. For O4s, in these four branches, this is a major. In these two, this is a lieutenant commander. For O5s, in these four branches, this is a lieutenant colonel. In these two, this is a commander. For O6s, in these four branches, this is a colonel. In these two, this is a captain. O7s are when you start to get stars. An O7 in these four branches is a brigadier general, and in these two, this is a rear admiral lower half. For O8s, in these branches, this is a major general. In these two, this is a rear admiral upper half. For 09s, in these branches, this is a lieutenant general. In these two, this is a vice admiral. For 010s, in these branches, this is a general. In these two, this is an admiral. Now for some fun facts. There are 5-star generals, which are also 010s. The last 5-star was Omar Bradley. These were utilized during World War II. 5-star generals and admirals technically never retired. They receive active duty pay for the rest of their lives. That's a pretty sweet gig. It doesn't stop there. There's actually a 6-star general. Yes, you heard right. 6. It's called General of the Armies, or Admiral of the Navies. While 6 stars has never actually been confirmed or designed, it is believed that this is the rank's design. The only 2 people to be given this title are John J. Pershing, even though this was back before 5-star generals even existed, and posthumously to George Washington in 1976, which made him the highest ranking officer above all other grades of the Army, past or present. And there you go. You now know every single rank that exists in the United States military. So here's our question for you. Which one is your favorite rank? Let us know in the comments section below. Well, that is the down and dirty of the United States military ranks. If you learned something from this video, make sure to give us a like and subscribe to our channel. As always, thank you for watching. Do you even want to be here? A big shout out to all of our YouTube members and our patrons over at our Patreon. Thank you all so much for taking the extra step in supporting our channel. It is much appreciated. If you'd like to be featured on a General Discharge video, consider joining our membership with the link in the description or the join button to the left of the subscribe button, or go give our Patreon a look and join the team. Here's Nick Nausea.
All your friends are subscribing to General Discharge, and you don't even want to be here.